Hello, this is Dr. Mark Miravalle. Today, my friends, we talk about a critically important subject, the subject of how a Catholic should vote. Now, one would say, well, what's the relevance of that on a Marian program? Well, indeed, it is the Mother of Jesus that is first concerned about all human life, including life in the womb, the nature of traditional marriage and its protection, and also religious freedom by which we can say yes to our Holy Catholic faith. Yes, these are indeed Marian issues, but they're also moral issues with political ramifications. I want to stress that from the beginning here. When you ask the question, how should a Catholic vote? The answer is morally. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but I will tell you in the great tradition of our Holy Catholic faith and at the direct encouragement of Pope Benedict to establish the moral principles by which a person of faith votes. And that is always based on a hierarchy of truth, a hierarchy, a sacred order, of a priority order of values. So, for example, the element of morals must come first when a Catholic or a Christian or a person of goodwill and of any moral formation votes. Yes, our discussion could have political ramifications, but it's not a political discussion. It's a moral discussion. I say that once again for clarity. Now, there are three big moral issues at stake in the election of the President of the United States and in the other elections, subordinate elections that follow. Number one, the issue of abortion. Number two, the issue of the nature of traditional marriage versus gay marriage, which is presently being supported by one candidate. And number three, the whole subject and constitutional right of religious freedom. Now, the moral issues must come first. Let me say that again. That means over economy, over environment, over right to bear arms, over private property. Now, how can I say that? Because, my friends, if you're not alive, you're not all that concerned about private property and the right to bear arms and the environment because you're dead. You don't have life. That's why in this hierarchy of values that every Catholic and Christian and person of goodwill should be voting as a base from, first must be the right to life. Because if you're not alive, any of the other rights guaranteed by the Constitution or by the natural law are mute. And so it would be a gravely selfish perspective to say, I'm going to take care of my people that are alive and my family, but I'm going to support something that allows the desecration of hundreds and thousands by the year, now millions, up to 50 million in our country, of brothers and sisters who are killed, brothers and sisters in the womb. Don't base personhood based on geography. Because someone's in the womb doesn't mean they're not a person any more than if you put someone in a closet, you can say you're no longer a person, but that would be absurd, right? And it's just as absurd to say this person's in the womb, therefore they're not a person. That's personhood by geography, not by God-given inherent right or protected by a democracy or a republic, let alone the U.S. Constitution. So the right to life must be first. It's the right by which all the other elements are founded. And so we can also say that a country that aborts its own people is a country that's going to find itself without hope and faith. That's why the right to life is first. Secondly, in this election, in terms of the value issues, is traditional marriage versus gay marriage, and rights and legislation that would support gay marriage. From a Catholic perspective and from a Christian perspective, the homosexual act is an intrinsically evil act. This is not speaking about persons to whom we love, it's actions for which we must judge. And the homosexual action, the act itself, is intrinsically disordered, as St. Paul says in Romans 1, as the Catholic Catechism says. And so, if the act itself is intrinsically evil, then you do not and cannot morally support a type of political or social support of a union based on the homosexual act, i.e., gay marriage. The burden of proof, even beyond the fact that the intrinsic act is something that is evil, it would be like people saying, well, I'm a husband, I commit adultery, and I want the government to give me tax breaks for my adultery, and I want to live with someone who's not my wife. I'm unfaithful, and I want tax breaks for that, specifically based on adultery. And the answer is no. We're not going to give you benefits for something that's so harmful to society. That's also the case with gay marriage. The statistics, which by the way are found and are compiled by pro-gay organizations, show that homosexual relationships and lesbian relationships are far more dangerous and abusive and more violent, 3 times more than any violence reported in heterosexual relationships or in traditional marriage. So not only is it not good for society, it's based on an act that isn't intrinsically disordered. That's why it cannot be an authentic Catholic position to support gay marriage or to vote for individuals that support gay marriage. And number 3, religious freedom. This, I think, should be the most obvious of all for a Catholic individual. When you have a government that puts forward what's now called the HHS, the HHS mandate, Health and Human Services mandate, which requires the Catholic Church to pay for contraception and contraceptive abortifacients, that means a contraceptive that kills the child in the womb. When a government seeks to require people, Catholic organizations like Catholic hospitals and other Catholic organizations, to pay for something that's intrinsically evil and against Catholic conscience and against religious liberty, you now have what could become the Roe v. Wade of religious freedom, and that is the HHS mandate. So here's the irony, my friends. For anyone who is Catholic to say, no, I support that. I support a principle where the government can force its policies so that a religious institution goes against its teachings. You've now undermined the whole basis of respect for freedom of religion. When you do that, it's the same principle that undermines the legitimacy of going to Mass on Sunday or praying or having public worship. This would be to undermine the whole nature of what it means to be religious in a democracy or a republic. So you notice I haven't talked about economy, I haven't talked about jobs, I haven't talked about just wage because they're not important. No, those are important. But you can't rate those with the moral questions. Once again, it's like gathering our children around, children of the family, and saying, you know, kids, you guys are beautiful and so important, and we love you so much, but you're not as important as our savings account. That's first. And that's what we say when we say the economy is first, jobs are first, rather than people are first. The moral teachings of the Catholic Church preserve and bring forward the sanctity of people, all people, including unborn people. That's why every Catholic has the moral responsibility to vote morals first. Doesn't mean that economics is not important, jobs are not important. They certainly are. They're just not very important if you're dead. The right to life is first. The traditional marriage, which is the foundation block of society, is second. Thirdly, religious freedom, which is one of our foundational rights under the Constitution. When these things are threatened, Catholics are morally obliged to vote for candidates that will support pro-life, traditional family, religious freedom, and cannot morally vote for pro-abortion, gay marriage support, and the attacks on religious freedom. So it's foundational. And I would say this, my friends, if any Catholic or Christian or person of goodwill would choose to vote pro-abortion, pro-gay marriage, and pro a policy that's going to erode our religious freedom, I would simply say, remember, you're going to have to tell Jesus why you did that. You're going to have to try to explain to Jesus, I did vote to support the killing of the image of God the Father in the womb, because that's what every kid is. I did vote to support tax breaks and a special status for two individuals performing an act which you said is a perversion. And I did support a policy which undermines my ability to worship you, Jesus, in the public forum. We're going to have to answer to Jesus for that. That's not something the Catholic or the Christian or a person of goodwill should answer, because it's not something a Catholic, a Christian, a person of goodwill should do. Let's vote in a way that's responsible, that's in compliancy with our Catholic faith and heritage and life, and let's be authentic citizens, because the greatest citizens are those who put the next life more important than this life. And that makes this life an anticipation, a foretaste of heaven. That's what we need from Catholic and Christian voters. As Dr. Mark Miravalle is saying, I'll be praying for your vote, and let's pray for our country. God bless.